Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Almost 30.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. I'm Lindsay, and this is my best friend, Krista. We love to hang out every dang week and just bring you into our little world of curious happenings.
Yes, and today is going to be such a beautiful conversation that I feel like it's very necessary with Darin Olien about fatal conveniences, his book around toxic products and harmful habits that are really making us sick. And yeah, I was really grateful he could come into the studio and talk to us about this. And I remember when he first sat down, he was saying, he's like, this isn't a book that I wanted to write. You know, we don't always want to talk about things that are harmful to us or really wake up and recognize the way that we've been living and the way that we've been operating in such a toxic environment with so much toxicity around us, and that the things that we're doing are really harming us. Although they're making our lives easier, they can be so harmful. So it was just really eye-opening for me, and I'm really excited to have him on to explore this. And especially because in the book, Fatal Conveniences, his book, there's a lot of really actionable, clear information on what to do. There's tons and tons of research, and it's just very easy to follow. And so I'm hopeful that you guys get inspired to get the book after this.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can, listen to podcasts or read books about this type of thing where it's like, hey, so the thing that you've been eating or doing or wearing or whatever for so long, this thing could potentially be disrupting your hormones or toxic, etc. And it becomes an overwhelming experience. But what I've realized in just the work that we do, because we're exposed to so much of this information, is that eventually, and you can do this one thing at a time, it does not need to be a whole life overhaul, but eventually, like, this becomes this way of life of being aware of all the plastics and how they, seep into our foods, etc. This becomes normal and easier as time goes on. I think we've been so indoctrinated into this world of like convenience, and this world of like just quickness of getting what we need fast, easy, ordering on Amazon, everything's in plastic, etc. But I'm so glad that I've been exposed to this. I'm sure you are too. I think about our friend like Courtney Swan, for example. Like, I feel like being around people who have an awareness, you realize that there is a very possible way to start living a cleaner life. And in doing so, I think it's, they say vote with your dollar, or it's just like make change with your dollar. Just being sure that you are being mindful about, what's in your environment, what you are eating, etc. You are not only going to be healthier for it, but also I believe in big and small ways, it's going to change the way in which companies think about what they are producing and how they're producing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the fatal conveniences that's discussed, and something that I thought about because I had a friend in high school that got TSS, which is toxic shock syndrome, which is what happens when you have a tampon in for too long. And she almost died. Like, she lost so much blood. It changed her life. And that's essentially like a fatal convenience. It's like creating a tampon that is bigger and better and lasts longer and has maximum absorbency and can stays in forever. And it's, again, this like bleach pad that is inserted in our bodies that is really doing a disservice to our entire internal microbiome. And in the 80s, there was a really big movement of TSS happening. It was like really popular. And it is one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, it's really convenient to have a tampon in all day and like, or as long as possible, you know what I mean? And have this thing that I can just stuff up and like, it'll absorb everything. And then I can move on with my life and I can girl boss to the moon. But it doesn't really work that way. And there's a lot of other examples in the book of fatal conveniences, whether it's related to our clothes or whether it's related to the things that we're eating or plastics. And after he left, I remember just kind of moving through my day mindfully and just kind of noticing what I'm using, noticing what I'm putting on my body, noticing what I'm consuming, noticing what I'm putting my food in, noticing what just all aspects of my life. And I was so shocked that, you wake up in the morning and I will brush my teeth, and it's like my toothbrush is plastic, the bristles are plastic, the toothpaste tube was plastic. So those are 4 things right away that I'm already doing that involve plastic, and it's going directly in my mouth. And so there's really great options. Obviously, as you guys know, you can get a bamboo toothbrush. You can get the dusts or like the powders that are really, really nice. There's great companies that have good options. You can use coconut oil and mint and all of that. But I was just like, whoa, there is a lot more plastic than I actually think. And there's a lot more things that I can continue to sort of move out of my experience and just kind of clear out that I'm now aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In being pregnant, I honestly feel like my alarm bells were like going off more often than was actually comfortable for me. But it just showed me too that like our bodies are so sensitive. And I think, pregnancy just turns it up a lot of notches. But that's why the connection with the body, I feel like, is so important. I hopped on like the air fryer train a while ago, and I got this air fryer. I was like, yeah, can't wait to, fry my sweet potatoes or whatever. And I was eating the food that was in the air fryer. I'm like, like this tastes a little off, but I kind of like ignored it for a little bit. I was like, oh, maybe, I don't know. And I realized like after a month that it had nonstick coating on the inside, and it was basically bleeding into my food. And I was like, damn, okay, well, literally that's going in the trash. Like once you can't unknow it. Same with nonstick pans and all of that. So, yeah, I've kind of had to like be a little kooky and do a total overhaul, because once I know something and then once I experience the effects of it, I'm like, my body knows. Like there's a body memory, and then there's also like my brain memory. And what's very cool is that we live in a time where I feel like there's lots of innovations around creating clean products, safe products, etc. You just got to do a little bit of research and you will have it at your fingertips. I promise it's not that hard. But I do believe that these inconveniences are actually going to let us live a longer life, prevent diseases and conditions and hormonal imbalances and all of that if we make those changes.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of research recently that found that 98% of Americans have forever chemicals in their blood, and that we also have, they've also found a lot of chemicals in the umbilical cords between the mother and the baby. So basically the baby is being born in the body, and in the umbilical cord, the mother has chemicals that are essentially, being fed to the baby. And these forever chemicals basically just are things that cannot go away. So they're toxic PFAs. And this was found, it's on theguardian.com. You can search PFAs, but it's basically used in products that resist water, stains, and heat. So they don't naturally break down, and they accumulate in our bodies and the environment. So a lot of the things that we're using to create an easier life, as we think, are really being stuck in our body. And, my dad has Parkinson's, and this is something that I believe just about my experience and just something that feels intuitive for me. And it's obviously not research-based. It might be, so who knows? But I believe it's also a buildup of toxic chemicals in the body. I believe that there's like an overwhelm of toxicity from just many years, and that it just makes it hard to function neurologically. And it really just creates this environment where you're not able to heal or be well. And I've noticed that there's such an increase in the amount of people that have Parkinson's and the amount of people that I've known to have Parkinson's. So I think that there's something related to like toxicity in the body and toxic buildup that's been happening. So I'm even more curious, because I look forward to helping my dad sort of like sort with his stuff that he has at home and creating like a cleaner, more safe environment so he can be more well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What I also found out, just speaking of PFAs, and I think we both should gift ourselves this, is that our contacts.
You know what's so interesting is I've been working with myself internally. I'm like, no more contacts with my eyes. And I'm actually working to train my muscles of my eyes to no longer lean on contacts. I'm like, we're done with contacts.
Do you have a prescription that's not too bad to where you can
Plus
kind of work
2.5.
backwards? Okay.
So I'm plus, which is weird. Everyone's negative. I'm plus.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When I found that, I was like,
No way there's PFAs in contacts.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So I want to get LASIK. Anywho. But
I love this book. I just love in books when you just find like a sentence where someone's just being honest. He's like, I just think the dairy process is disgusting. He's like, babies torn from their
where you
mothers.
like catch his opinion, you're like,
Yeah,
there it is.
literally, where someone's just like very like curt and direct and honest. It's like, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh yeah, this research. And they're like, that's disgusting. So I hope you guys really enjoy this conversation. So Darin Olien, he was in Netflix's Down to Earth with Zac Efron, which is a really beautiful show. We talked a little bit about that, his journey there. He's been on the podcast before. He was there previously to talk with us about superfoods and about Barukas, which is another one of his companies. Baruka nuts are my favorite nuts. They are so, so good. Baruka nut butter is so good. So Barukas is another one of his companies. And then we spend most of the time talking about fatal conveniences. So I'm hopeful that this is helpful and not shame-inducing, and just kind of being with the feeling and the emotion of what's coming up during the process of learning about this. It can be scary, it can feel uncomfortable, it can feel all the things, but we as a culture and society need to feel ready to face sort of how we've been living and create waves and more of a movement to live more sustainably. And last thing I wanted to say, this is what I just realized. Last night in my dream, I was at a farm with ducks, and I was in this farmhouse with ducks, and there was glyphosate in the corner. And so I was like, I kept saying, I'm like, guys, we can't use glyphosate. We can't use, and glyphosate is Roundup for anyone that's listening. And Zach Bush does a really great job talking about the harmful effects of glyphosate and Roundup. But it was so interesting because now that I'm realizing, I'm like, why would I have a dream about glyphosate and like harming ducks? Isn't that weird?
Wow.
I know.
This episode.
Yeah.
And you didn't know you were going to record this together.
I was going to tune into this. I'm like, I should look that up in my dream book.
I love when dreams do that. I had one the other day where in my dream I had a bump on my forehead, and then literally the next day in real life I bumped my forehead right in.
No way.
It was so like with a hanger. It was
duck.
so stupid.
I'm adopting a baby duck, and we're going to support the removal of glyphosate movement. I actually, in my dream book, I got this old school dream book by Mary Summers Rain, and it's supposed to be like OG book. It actually sucks. It's like, I look it up and it's like psychic, because I had another dream about psychic gifts the other night, and it's like means that you have psychic gifts, and you're like, okay. And it's like ocean. It's like means that there's a lot of change and currents. It like basically defines words and says that that's what they mean in dreams. I'm like, this is worthless. Everyone needs to do their own inquiry for dream work, because whatever's happening might mean something completely different for you than someone else. And looking up what common themes are in dreams, I just feel like is not super helpful. So that's my dream soapbox. I'm getting off now, but I just had to say that about this book, because I'm like, I don't need a definition. I need like an interpretation.
What's her name again?
Literally. Dream book sucks. I'm returning it.
Thank you, Darin. We appreciate you. You can learn more about Darin, his work, and his book and podcast at darinolien.com. His podcast is The Darin Olien Show. Enjoy this one, and we will see you on the other side.
We love you guys. Bye-bye.
This episode is brought to you by AG1. This is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports your whole body health. And Krista and I have been drinking AG1 for years now, every single day. And I'm sure you've heard about it on this pod. And I'm sure you've heard from many, many people out there, podcasters, influencers, etc. And it's for good reason. AG1 is a truly comprehensive way to fill in your nutritional gaps. They are absolutely obsessed with quality. So I know that this science-driven formulation of vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients is of the highest quality. And I'm never second guessing. They are truly raising the standard in the supplement category, and it's so easy to incorporate. 1 scoop, mix it with cold water every single day. I love to do it first thing in the morning, and I feel incredible. And it honestly like sets off this chain of healthy choices that I feel so good about. It's really influenced my entire routine and my approach to health. What's great is that AG1 is delivered every single month to me, so it's just been super easy to keep consistent with it. I like to not think about things like having to order it and all that stuff. I also get the single serving AG1 travel pack, so I never have to miss a day if I'm on the road. I love bringing them with me everywhere, and I know you will too. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase when you go to drinkag1.com/almost30. That's drinkag1.com/almost30. You'll get 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. That vitamin D, y'all, a lot of us are deficient in it. This gives you 1-year supply. It has made such a difference for me. I got my vitamin D levels checked and they were primo, which I feel just an increase in my mood, elevation in my mood, my energy. And I'm so thankful. drinkag1.com/almost30. Okay, I am about to pack my hospital bag for birth. Some weeks out, we just got to be prepared, you know what I mean? And I'm so freaking excited because I'm going to use my weekender bag from Base, okay? BEIS. If you haven't seen or heard of this brand, where have you been? It's everywhere and so popular. I get the hype. So they designed this bag to take the hassle out of packing for the weekend or whichever days you're away. It's literally, seriously, a tote that makes like packing everything you need so easy and not inconvenient. I love all of like the secret little compartments. I just love how everything's set up. They have a zipper pocket on the back. And it comes with a trolley sleeve, so it fits over your luggage handle if you need to. You can fit your shoes and toiletries in different compartments. It's so freaking genius, and it's cute. I'm really excited to bring a cute hospital bag. So this is my fave. But Base has lots of other luggage and bag options that are so chic, cool, and make traveling just so much freaking fun. They have a carry-on roller that I think is bomb. It comes in a ton of different colors, from bright to neutrals. Just check it out. 360 rolling wheels, which I love. You will breeze through any line just effortlessly, and you can fit so much in this bag and carry it on, which I really, really love. So if you are someone that is looking for luggage or bags that are well made, that are fashionable, that are easy to transport, highly recommend Base when shopping. Right now, Base is offering our listeners 15% off your first purchase by visiting basetravel.com/almost30. Let me spell it out for you. BEIS travel.com/almost30. You'll get 15% off your first purchase. BEIS travel.com/almost30.
In that vein of just now that you have seen what you see, it's like seeing things through the matrix as it relates to fatal inconveniences. Do you find that to be overwhelming at all? Or do you find that to be something that's like inspiring?
It's inspiring because it's a point of change.
Yeah.
Like it's like anything. Like when you've had an awareness of something in your life and then you realize that, oh, wow, I was doing that and now I don't have to do that. And now there's a whole other opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So facing it, seeing it, then allows for a change to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So as anything, if you are in a relationship, if you have an awareness about yourself or your partner, and then you can talk about it and bring it up and out,
Mm-hmm.
then it has no power. So these fatal conveniences are muses within a system that doesn't have our best interest, right? And you can make all the conclusions as to why that is, but it's also, that's exhausting and also potentially harmful to me to make all those. I just go, oh, well, this is happening.
Yeah.
So you deal with it from a reality standpoint. And so, okay, well, parabens, endocrine disruptors, phthalates, fragrances, all these things are in these products, and they have scientific information showing that they're harmful. So I see when I'm out in the world, it informs more of like, oh, people are still doing that. Okay, let me do a fatal convenience on that. Let me dig into that. Let me explore as to why that may not be great for someone and for the population at whole. And my optimism comes by way of bringing this up and out, like I said, and also the 8 billion of us. Because the more we know and the more we operate from a knowing and a knowledge, we can then take an action. And the action can be then different now that you're informed. And with that action that's then different, then you create a system of change. I would take 8 billion over a couple companies, or a few companies that aren't doing things great, right? So so my hope is just kind of that going. I was born into it just like everyone else. These chemicals existed in my mom's umbilical cord too. And there's these studies show that. So we're born into these things, and you don't want to think that they are harmful, and you don't want to think that any product in a store, if I walk down the street, that I go into it and I buy this lotion or this moisturizer, it's hard to get your head around that hasn't been tested for safety. Zero, virtually nothing. That it doesn't have to be proven as safe, and there's something that these companies, they will use kind of plausible deniability, right? So if they don't test their product, they don't know that it's harmful. So it becomes,
and it's almost like a race where it's like getting it out there, having people buy it, and then testing it later and being like, oh yeah, now we know. Now we know these things. But so you have a master's in psychology, right? So something I want to explore is like, what is the cognitive dissonance, or what is sort of happening where people are not wanting to look at it? People are not wanting to walk into these conversations. I feel like whenever we have these type of topics, people sort of don't want to, they're afraid to look at it. Do you notice that as well? Like, what do you think's happening with the psyche and the brain of people where we're kind of just like not wanting to really look at these things?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, the overarching kind of aspect of that is it's as if anything, you want to kind of move forward without dealing. You just want to, it goes all the way into addiction behaviors. Is hey, I don't feel that great now, but if I take this, I'll feel a little better. I just don't want to stop my life. I'm too busy, all of these things, and I don't want to stop. Look at this, it's painful. I'm going to avoid the pain, and I'm going to keep moving forward and hope that I can eventuate a different outcome. And of course, you're pulling the same wagon in your life always. So it's coming with you. You are you with you. And so there's a level of apathy that can be perceived as overwhelming, right? That I just don't feel like, I just, this thing around food and stuff too, people say, I just want to live my life.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, well, I do too. Right? But I want to live powerfully and with energy and vitality so that I can exercise the greatest kind of life that I want to curate for myself. And the problem with some of that conversation is that, okay, if you don't want to deal with your emotional or mental or physical or in this case chemical soup that you are being affected.
Mm-hmm.
These things are affecting you. What you're putting in your mouth is affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
What you're putting on your skin is affecting you. 60% of the calories of American adults are ultra processed food. 70% are children. And so we know that these things in these additives and these red 40 dyes, these are connected to ADD, ADHD, how you feel. Like there is tens of thousands of studies showing the link between what we're ingesting and what the outcome is. So the point is that, you know, it's also, it's not acute.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this behavioral thing that continues to move forward, and next thing you know, you go, oh, I'm over here now. I've gotten used to whatever it is I'm doing, and therefore that's my new set point.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you tend to not realize how well you could feel because you've gotten used to, this is how I feel. Mm-hmm. And that could be such a lower level of a true you. Mm-hmm. You know, you've gone through that when people, you know, you change a diet up or you haven't been feeling good and you get some tests and you do a switch, you change something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I feel hydrated, I have energy, you're like, wow, I had no idea I could feel this way.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need to suspend the acute gratification of all of those little habits that you've become accustomed to, addicted to, and all of those things, so that you can exercise a greater opportunity later. And so it's this.
I think that's so much of it, you know, the way in which social media has changed our brains so that we have that desire for that instant gratification is now sort of bled into other areas of our life where, and also because we're so inundated with information and just things that are coming in, it's like people are automatically overwhelmed with another request or another ask where it's like, I just want to live. You know, it's like, it's where immediately with the request to change any part of what they're doing feels like a threat or feels like it's going to, it just feels like you are asking them something that's going to hurt them or be hard for them and they can't handle it. Like the fragility of people now, because I think of the way that our phones are changing our brains, is sort of what I see in the space. Because I'm like, for most of what we're asking or what you're asking, not me, I guess, in this, a lot of the actions are actually not that difficult, but it seems hard when you're seeing it as something that you need to change for a reason that you don't quite understand, maybe.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like I write this stuff and it's not my job to get anyone to change. Yeah. I want to supply some information. What they do with that is their choice. So it's as anything. If you have more information, you have more choices. Yeah. You can keep choosing whatever it is you want to choose, right? You can keep choosing the dental floss that has the slippery stuff on it and a thin film and it slips between your teeth. And if you are fine with the likely carcinogen of PFAS on there.
What does that do to you?
Which is it's a likely carcinogen linked to kidney cancer. And that slippery stuff is PFAS, which is a derivative from Teflon. It shows up in clothing, non-wrinkled stuff. It shows up it's all over in our water because we've used so much of it. It's in an ungodly amount of beauty products that don't wipe off, right? It's in the wrapping paper of fast food, so food doesn't stick to it. It's just everywhere, right? It's in to-go containers so that your food, when you're going at a other restaurant, it's got this slippery heat resistance stuff on it. Right. That's all PFAS, and it's going into your food. and you putting on your skin and beauty products. So those are endocrine disruptors, right?
Yeah.
And those are likely carcinogens.
When you say what's a carcinogen, just for people listening?
Well, so one of the ways that they believe, a proponent of cancer, right? So some of what they see with PFAS is it disrupts the body's ability to basically dump its cells. So it's called senescence. So it disrupts your body's ability to just do its natural detoxification on a cellular level. And once that gets disrupted, that's where these little microenvironments are created in your body. And then these have other metabolites. And then that environment starts inviting in different activity. It's a similar thing like if you put your trash out on the road and then the guy doesn't come to take your trash, and then you put more trash and more trash. If you go there next week, what do you think's going to be out there? It's going to putrefy, it's going to smell, there's going to be rodents, there's going to be an attraction to the different environment. And so cancer thrives off different environments. So when the environments, you have many environments from your skin to your metabolism to your stomach to your pH of your blood, all of these different things. And so when these environments change or shift, that creates a different opportunity for cancers, disease states, colds, flus, all of that stuff to be able to thrive because it's a terrain situation. It's not catching something. We're catching stuff all the time. We're breathing in things all the time. So when we're constantly exposed to, and these are called forever chemicals, and there's a reason why they're called forever, is they bioaccumulate in the environment and in your environment, in your body, and it takes them a long time to move out. And so it gets classified as obesogens and things that get
An obesogen is
it's like these
get stuck in fat cells.
Yeah, the body's really bright.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, these are harmful to my inner organs and my optimal functioning. So it shoves a lot of these toxins into fat tissues. And so it's harder to let go of that stuff because your body is holding onto a toxin that it knows is not good for it. So there's a lot of chain of events. So when you're exposed to these PFAS from every direction, from the clothes you're wearing, and then you have the parabens or phthalates, which are also hormone disruptors, you're causing a lot of disturbance, and that endocrine shift, that's your regulation body, right? That's telling you how to feel. It's telling body systems how to operate, and that starts getting hijacked by all of these things. So all that to say, an average woman uses about 126 different, or gets exposed to about 126 chemicals every day, right? From, jumping in the shower to all the shampoos and the conditioners and stuff, to the lotions, to the beauty products, to the clothes you wear, to the laundry soap that you use, all of this, right? So it just continues to grow. And some of these, like the parabens and the phthalates, have half-life, so they move out of the body quicker. They're still causing disturbances. So yeah, man, it's like you go back to, okay, everyone listening going, cool, I'm already overwhelmed. Yeah. Right? And that's fine. This book is kind of like a resource guide. Yeah. If you just open it up and point, you're going to learn something. And like you said in the beginning, I tried to make it so that I'm not trying to have everyone live under a tree and in a yurt. And a yurt, similar to me. But what I am trying to do is creating safer solutions for the same situation, right? So don't use the Teflon laden floss. Use this other one instead. Don't use the fluoride riddled toothpaste. Use this one instead. And I have a lot of DIYs and stuff in the book. So
what was because a book like this, it's like almost like you have to be pushed to make it. Did you feel like it was something where you're like, okay, I need to make something like this?
Yeah,
What was the inspiration?
my dad.
Yeah.
So my dad was my dad in the 90s developed chemical sensitivity, and it wasn't even a term, like barely, right?
Did he diagnose? Like, did he understand that himself?
Yeah. So he was a professor at the University of Minnesota, and then at a certain point, and I was in college at the time, so it was later in his life, and he started developing brain fog and couldn't function, and then he started going to a bunch of doctors, like, what's the problem? Like, and then they started diagnosing him with, you're sensitive to these chemicals. So clothing that would, these things called azo dyes that would come off prints, formaldehydes. I mean, the average T-shirt takes 8,000 chemicals, literally 8,000 chemicals to make, right? So from glyphosate riddled insecticide to detergents and bleaching and washing and staining and all of this stuff. So all of these things. So from that to fragrances and the personal care, all of these things my dad would be affected by. So he'd start sending me care packages when he knew I was going to come home. And so I had to literally wash all my clothes in this unscented brand, use all these things, don't use that shampoo, use this shampoo. So
were your parents together?
They were divorced at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was remarried.
Okay.
But so then I would come home, and I started to realize I was feeling better. So it's that same old thing. Like, I didn't realize I was being affected by it. But then slowly and subtly, so I could hang out with my dad, I was detoxing myself from this crap. So then cut to, so that really set him down a path. He had to go into forced retirement disability because he couldn't educate his entire colleagues and students to wear the right things interacting with him.
I'm so surprised that at that time that they attributed to chemicals. I feel like they would have done just like, you have Parkinson's, you have like it usually just you have the thing, but they don't see why. Right.
They tested for everything, and it was like, and then literally the exposure. I don't know how they did because I wasn't around at the time, but they did some sort of elimination thing, and so when he would get exposed, like wear this shirt or wear that, he would know what was happening.
Was he in an environment that created the ultra sensitivity to it? Because for most of us, we're around that all the time.
Yeah,
so we kind
it's a good question. There is, by the way, there's about 12% of the 2 to 12% of the population who have chemical sensitivity today.
Wow.
So these are sensitive people today.
Yeah.
My dad was in the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was one of the keepers of the dragon, they called him. So he worked on atomic bombs.
Okay.
And so his thyroid was toast. So his endocrine system. So notice their theme here. These things are already attacking our endocrine system today with what's on stuff. He was already compromised with one of his master glands, his thyroid, in his endocrine system. So he was susceptible to that. So after all of that, he was 30 years sober at that point. He kind of went into depression, started drinking again, and ultimately died of alcoholism. So that line was pretty clear for me at that point. So 30 years, I had been started with his experience, and then I'd run into these researchers and doctors along the way giving me these nuggets. Dr. Mohsen Hurmanish actually gave me 20 years ago, gave me that term, fatal convenience, telling me about, EMFs and cell phones, how detrimental they are. So this whole thing has been playing. So like, live optimally, super life, drink good water, eat good superfoods, all of that stuff. That's great. Still do that. But there's this invisible world that's going on that's largely not regulated well at all, right? And that's where the chemical exposure, it's getting all of us. So yeah, it's a very personal thing because I saw, my father suffer as a result. And then after 20 researchers and hundreds of research articles, you come to realize, staring at these things, going, we know that this PFAS is a likely carcinogen. We know that it's an endocrine disruptor, a hormone dysregulator. We know it. It's all over in the research. And then it becomes overwhelming, and then they initiate some regulatory act when they should have regulated it in the beginning, but they don't. And that's the trip.
Yeah.
That's the population flip of the script that people don't realize. That we are, like we said in the beginning, throwing all of these products into our environment. Later we'll deal with it. Just like, the classic one.
DDT.
Exactly. 1972, right? DDT, 1972. Oh, wow, this is acutely bad.
Yeah.
So let's ban it. Well, too bad. That's a forever chemical. And you know what's in over 90% of all kids today? DDT.
No way.
Yeah. And they also now...
Is it water?
Yeah, with the exposure it's in the environment,
Yeah.
right? Soil, the water.
Yeah.
And then that soil and water gets in our water table,
Right.
and there you go. And the water filter systems are only bare minimum.
Yeah.
Bare minimum, so that we don't die of dysentery, cholera, typhoid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're not filtering out 8,000 PFAS chemicals. They're not
Yeah.
filtering out DDT.
Yeah.
They're not filtering out these
Birth
things.
control.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what, it's like the DDT one is almost like a funny example, because it's like, it's like the classic example that we all sort of go to. We're like, yes, the DDT, the bald eagle, like, you're kind of like, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
But then you think about now how many things that are actually still in circulation that we know are impacting us in such a negative way, like birth control or like wet wipes or like all these things, but yet they're not being regulated or removed.
No.
And
even if they are, that's the problem with some of these things, right? Even triclosan, which is a antibacterial used in personal care products and stuff like that.
Personal care products like tampons and pads, or what do you mean?
No, like lotions and
Got it,
and some beauty products and things like that. So they said, okay, let's ban it. Guess what's still in the blood of most people?
Wow.
Right? So that's the problem. We're playing with this chemistry. They found PFAS in the bottom of the ocean in shellfish, right? They found phthalates and parabens in the bottom of the ocean. So these things are now everywhere. And these things also are affecting the environment. The interesting thing about all this research was that this is our environment, right? We have an ecosystem here, right? And it's always constantly trying to be in balance, right? If any of these products are harmful to us, I very clearly saw that if it's harmful to us, it is always harmful in its process to get here, i.e. a plastic bottle, right? Harmful for the environment.
Like fast fashion.
Yeah, fast fashion, which is a massive, insane situation, which I'm really thinking aggressively on, by the way, because that's a whole.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Yeah,
the way that it just, the whole thing, like, even I was in a store, this is kind of a side note when I want to get back, but I was in a fast fashion store with a friend, and you could feel the energy in there. I was like, this place feels so crazy and dark. Everyone was like frantically, like, just like the hungry ghost of everybody was just going around. The line was crazy. Stuff was everywhere.
Get me my stuff.
Get me my stuff. It was like people were like possessed. And then you see it just from the very bottom of the chain of fast fashion. You're like, oh, that sort of energy is used in creation. That sort of energy is used at the top. Like, It just moves through the whole experience of these fast fashion brands. And when I've said stuff about fast fashion, I'll have people that are like, well, what if people can't afford expensive things? And it's like, I mean, I think the way in which that people are engaging with fast fashion is not by necessity, but by excess.
Totally.
So it's not like we're thinking about this is your option for the piece of clothing that you have. It's like this is usually a world of excess.
Totally. Yeah, and because of the waste too, we don't realize second largest polluter on the planet.
Yeah.
So our
because of the chemicals, right? Or
and the volume, right?
Yeah.
So think of like spandex, lycra, nylon, all of that. Those are all just derivatives of polyurethane, petroleum, all of this stuff. Tight jeans are now sell more than regular jeans, and that's all woven with elastane, which is petroleum. So all of these things, there's no way to separate any of that stuff. So it's as if visualize, we can see a plastic water bottle and anyone throwing it knowingly in the ocean, people will be like, hey man, don't do that. Or throwing it on the ground, like, hey man. But we don't think of clothing as the same. You're like, well, it's clothes, it'll break down. But not when it's not natural. Not when, over 90% of the cotton grown today is chemical beyond belief, right? Is all genetically modified, heavy, pesticide ridden, and that's the fast fashion. So the massive destruction for the environment, for the water table, for the soil, for the freaking bees. One drop of that pesticide can kill 80,000 bees, right? So, and then neonicotinoids and all of these things disrupt. So if you look at the destruction, and then of course the slave labor, all of these things, and then it comes all the way to the individual eventually. That individual is also acutely being harmed, right? Because you're putting on those 8,000 chemicals. You're putting on the formaldehydes. You're putting on the phthalates. You're putting on the polyurethanes, all to do what? To look good for
Instagram.
For a little bit. And my thing is, don't buy less clothes, upcycle, and you don't have to buy in, just be unique. Find the stuff. And I love kind of looking at like upcycled clothes, and they put mismatched stuff together. It's fun. It's just kind of like, I'm not a fashion guy. I have it in me, but it's fun to kind of do that. And now these pants are all created by my good friend Jeff Garner, who's been a sustainable fashion designer for 20 years. And so I'm like, I don't need much. I just need to be creative as to what I match things with and stuff like that. So it's just a matter of, it's a delusional or a manipulative thing that people, I gotta buy more stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's baked into it as well. And I can't even imagine from a woman's perspective how much that's.
It's a vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think that's where it's like for me, it just always, like, I'm always trying to find what we're coming back to and like why in our experience. And then it is the desire for more. It's the consumption. It's the excess. It's like the hungry ghost within us that's never satisfied, that needs more, that finds themselves shopping in fast fashion because they're like, well, I in my mind desire this thing more because it'll make me more attractive. It'll make me more fashionable. It'll make me more of the things that I feel like I'm not. So I'll forego my conscious awareness of what this is doing to the environment and others because I feel like I need it so much. Right. And that's where
you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Yeah. Most people don't want to know. I found that I've been plant-based for years, and I don't really talk about it, but I always found that so interesting is like people be like, oh, I don't want to know. And I'm like, yeah, but it's interesting because vibrationally, when I first became plant-based, when I was like 20, like the information that I consumed, I don't know if I'm a vibrational match for anymore because it was so rough. Yeah. When you really learn. Yeah. And I don't have access to any of that anymore. I understand what's going on, but I don't really hear about it anymore. But I was definitely a vibrational match from a sense of like the pain and suffering of what goes on within our, the industry.
And I think you bring up a really strong point that when these things can seem subtle. Yeah. On the one hand, like, oh, I'm just making this shift. I'm just getting out of this thing. But there's something with, this as an example. When I put these pants on, I had these for season 2 of Down to Earth. I was running around with all this stuff. Jeff made me all this stuff. And it's like using your terminology, vibrationally match the integration, because I know these were dyed with true walnuts, right? And there was care. So I don't need to buy a whole bunch of them. I'm going to wear them until they fall off of me, right? So putting on clothes that are integrated, switching out of this cheap thing that you're used to buying and buying something that may be a little more expensive, maybe, right? Then cool. Save a little more time and money so that you can then afford it and just buy the one or buy the thing or be creative. Like that's the thing that, you know, is part of my compelled nature of writing this book too, is I wish I didn't have to write it. But, you know, as my father is very strong with me throughout this whole journey, I was compelled to, because I literally was one of the hardest. It was so hard to write this book.
Just finding out the truth of things.
And every chapter was a book.
Oh, yeah.
It was so intense.
And all the research, I'm sure.
And all the research and going through and teaching the researchers what we need, what we don't need, and all of stuff. So 20 different researchers and, you know, all these legitimate, I say that today, legitimate fact checkers that would check all of our researchers and what I was saying and did it match, and like, and oh my God, I wanted to quit.
I'm sure.
You know, it was like, I was so naive to think I could bang this book out, because I had a good amount of knowledge.
You're like, fluoride, get ready.
Yeah.
And then you're in it. You're like, what the fuck? Did you ever?
Fluoride's great. I couldn't even get into it all.
I mean,
Fluoride's story should be a freaking movie.
Let's talk about that, because
that
was kind of
I can't talk about it. It's too big.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
I feel like wedding season is all times of year now. And so I wanted to shout out a piece of my wedding dress experience that I honestly could not have done without. And that is Honey Love. Okay. The shapewear that I am just obsessed with. So the Honey Love bestselling Superpower short is my go-to. It is incredible. It has targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas where you want more support and areas where you need less compression. It's genius. I never feel super suffocated or constricted, but I just feel nice and shucked in the best way and smoothed out. Their signature X in the design targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves, and it's designed to work with your body, not against it, which is so freaking great. And it doesn't roll down. So I had this on with my wedding dress and I was a little worried. I was like, oh God, is it going to roll down? Nope, didn't roll down, which is unheard of in shapewear, thanks to flexible boning that's hidden in the side seams. So I'm obsessed. It also had a booty lifter. Everyone said my booty looked good. And I was like, thank you. I will let you know the secret later. But if you're looking for shapewear, Honey Love is truly it. Whether you're a bride, a guest looking for an everyday fit, I'm actually lining my Honey Love products up for post-pregnancy after my body heals and just, like feeling, really confident again in regular clothes. It'll be so nice to have Honey Love as a little support. So I'm really excited for you to try. This company is amazing and I want you to treat yourself, baby. Treat yourself to the best shapewear on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com with the code ALMOST30. That's right, baby. You're going to get 20% off at honeylove.com by going to honeylove.com/almost30. You're going to love it. I am a sparkling beverage girly. I always have been and I always will be. And Krista and I are absolutely in love with and obsessed with Dram. So if you have not heard of Dram, this is an incredible brand that has the first adaptogenic sparkling water to market. It landed in 2018. They are the only sparkling water on the market without natural flavorings or fruit juice or anything synthetic. They make all of their plant extracts from scratch using whole and organic fruits, seeds, mushrooms, flowers, leaves, barks. And I don't know if you know this, but most companies buy flavoring from flavor houses and have no idea what's in their own products, which is not good. The founders, Brady and Shay, are just incredible. Shay makes all the recipes. Brady does all the design work. They started this company with $700 from Shay's bartending tips. And now they are incredibly successful and known globally. It's truly unheard of in this industry. They are committed to a 4-day work week, unlimited time off, health benefits for their employees. They just really believe in enjoying your life, and they've made that possible within capitalism. It's pretty cool. So I wanted to shout out some of my favorite flaves. So I love the cardamom and black tea. That is a Good Food Award winner, and I know why. It's just so delicious and refreshing. I also have been obsessed with the holy basil and lemon adaptogenic sparkling water. It's just so like crispy, and I'll have it with a little slice of lemon as like an added little, so good. And then they do have CBD sparkling water, which is great. Right now I'm pregnant, so I'm not having it. But before pregnancy, I was like, oh, this is my jam, and I can't wait to get back on it. They have Rose Beauty Bubbles adaptogenic CBD sparkling water, which I love. They have a Sweetgrass adaptogenic CBD sparkling water. It's just so dang good. They have bitters and CBD drops as well, but I'd love for you to try it out. You will not regret it. You can go to dramapothecary.com and use the code almost30 for 20% off your entire order. So major Dram, DRAMAPOTHECARY.com, dramapothecary.com. Use the code almost30 for 20% off your entire order. You're gonna be obsessed. Can't wait to hear from you.
Because in parallel to what I wanted to say is like, do you ever find anybody like coming with a conspiracy thing?
Of course. I mean, you look at all this stuff. You could look at EMFs,
Bluetooth, EMF,
and you
fluoride.
could look on some website that was created in '92.
Yeah.
And some, they're killing us or whatever. And so getting through, and also buried research. Like, yes. I'd have to read some like books that were not, that were old and older, and doctors that did this research. The Invisible Rainbow is like, holy shit, an amazing book.
What's that?
It's on the electrification of the United States, like the history and what it was biologically doing to our environment and biologically to us and to our environment, just literally from the start of the telegraph.
I'm starting to cry.
Yeah, and the electromagnetic.
It's so sad.
It's gnarly.
It's so gnarly.
And and so having good editors. Thank you for that. Just by caring.
I can't. There's weird. It's just like it's a psychic thing too. Something when something's very true.
Yeah.
Of like a true thing that happens, it just is very sad to me.
Yeah. It's, and I can easily get. I mean, how many swear words were? I never took
That's
a week.
Hilarious. I'm sure your editors were like, dude, they're like, search, find.
Yeah. And just like out loud as I'm staring, I'm by myself, headphones on, listening to just non-worded music so I could like focus every weekend, because that's where I could get so much done, because it was less distraction. I took 2 weekends off in 2 years, right? Saturday, Sunday, and like blowing through all this stuff. Just match it out of my brain and cacao, all this stuff. And I would also get I would get fired up, I would get angry, I would get upset, and I would get hopeful. And ultimately, I wouldn't have written the book if I didn't have a ridiculous amount of hope. And that's why these conversations, right? Talking to you, and then this amplification of you, right? These people hearing it, right? And then even if they take one morsel, even like the dental floss thing.
Yep.
Oh, that baby bib that's easy to wipe off. Shit, that's full of PFAS. Oh, those throwaway diapers that I didn't knowingly know that these were seeping into my child, causing more endocrine disruption for my precious little baby. I didn't know that. So I don't want people to become aware of this stuff and then go into shame or any of that stuff. I just want awareness so that you can make a choice. And then once you make that choice, then you're going to not only create less exposure for you, your environment, your children, your precious pets, and because there's all kinds of carpets and stuff got stain resistance, and so anytime people, there's so many rabbit holes with this shit. Like anytime you see wrinkle free repellent of any kind, stain resistant, run.
I think it is like, even in the title, like it's just thinking about it, it's like, what is so convenient, it's kind of weird. Throwaway diapers, something you would use for a couple hours, throw out immediately. What is like with the makeup, something that doesn't wipe off? Does that make sense? Like if you're putting a bib on, like something, a fabric like that, does it make sense that that would naturally exist? And just thinking about that. But I want to talk a little bit about the fluoride thing, because we've talked about this on the show before. And I think, why do you think that is something that people say is a conspiracy? Like, I guess, what is the...
Oh, God. I mean, there is absolute great doctors along the way in the early 1900s that, I think it was in Colorado Springs, a doctor by the name of, their two last names, Dr. McKay and Dr. Black. So they were doing this research, and I think it was the native populations in that area. And then all of a sudden they saw all of the children and adults had black stains on their teeth, and they're like, what are they eating that's staining their teeth? And apparently it was a malnourishment of a natural form of fluoride, right? And they called the condition like fluoresis or something, right? So along that way, and then they were like, well, what are populations that are, and again, this is, I'm keeping this very brief. This is a massive topic, and there's a huge history here. So that's the caveat. I can't get into it. It's way too detailed. So they made movements on that, and then realizing that fluoride, high levels of natural fluoride in the water seemed to do a good delivery system, and it seemed to help these people. So again, look at like when people were coming over on the ships in the 1800s and they had scurvy and they gave them a freaking lemon and it changed their life, right? So this is severe mineral depletion, right? This is a trace element, right? We need about 190 to 102 every day. These are natural electrolytes and minerals that we get naturally from the food and water and everything else. So this is severe cases where these people don't have enough. Cut to, so that was going on, and then the adoption of that started to happen, and they just made assumptions that this was just good for the enamel. They found that, yes, that may show that it helps protect enamel. Beyond, obviously, the black stains of the severity cases. So with all of that, they enacted a policy to get it all over the place in the water. Not similar, but chlorine that's a whole nother story. Chlorine actually saved the world from literally pretty much acutely dying of dysentery and cholera and typhoid, right? But they didn't realize, just as a side note, they didn't realize that the volatile organic compounds that are in the pipes or having inner reactions to the chlorine are creating other types of reactive volatile chlorine molecules that are carcinogenic. And that's still happening today.
So the chlorine wasn't, but it was engaging with something in the pipes that was making it cancerous.
Yeah, it's still happening today because whose pipes are clean,
Yeah.
right? It's got a long journey, and they have to make sure that there's enough chlorine, just enough to make sure that you're not going to die upon drinking the water. So that's aside. Water, you need to clean your water for sure. And then there was this whole other thing that was going on that my buddy Paul Hawken was telling me about. There was the Dust Bowl of the Midwest. They realized monocropping is just destroying the top layer, the soil that builds so much of the essential microflora and mineral content. Well, that was blowing away because they were tilling and monocropping, and it was accumulating in this one little town. And they realized everyone had perfect teeth. So along the path of these other doctors, they weren't even connected at the point. There was this massive history of fluoride on the one hand. On the other hand, they were like, it's got to be the fluoride. So I don't know if I have no idea. I had to stop reading so much about it because I had to get my book done. But they thought that it was also from high levels of naturally occurring fluoride. Cut to, I'll just summarize it here. Where are we getting the fluoride? It's a waste product of two places. The pesticide industry and the aluminum manufacturing industry. Look it up. This is what they're adding to our water. Whenever you take something out of its natural state, you have different reactions ultimately in the body. So they now see, and I bring this up in the book, when you have high levels of fluoride, the IQ levels, especially in children, go down. So there's negative neuro activity that's going on. Why the hell is fluoride still in our water today, right? So it's, again, you're like, okay, I don't know why. I can guess, right? But since it is, and it doesn't show that it's clearly good for us, filter your damn water, right? That's where it's like I just kind of meet these things with a pragmatic, practical thing going, it's in your water. We're not dying of a lack of fluoride, people. Yeah. And just know the source. Yeah. I spent 20 years realizing where sources of food and stuff came from. So I know that, the chain of things and the environmental impact and the waste product of in industry is not something that I would put high on the list to ingest. Yeah. So
I think with you too, it's like, when thinking about fluoride as the example with that, it's like when we're coming at it, with the question around conspiracy, it's like your information is not around the nefariousness of a top-down government or group of people that's doing this to harm us. It's really like our lack of knowledge and education around things when we're doing them, and us trying to solve a very small problem without a lot of research or without doing a lot of background check or information, and just kind of like putting out one fire like whack-a-mole. Yeah. And then it's affecting the whole. It's affecting the whole ecosystem and the world. What are some changes that people could do for their health that don't involve like buying anything? Like, what are simple practices and ways of being in their everyday that they could support themselves?
Well, there's systems of buying patterns for sure that you have to change. I really like to start with the inside out. Yeah. So what you're putting in your mouth is wildly important. Yeah. Right.
Food, which is food wise or oral care or
all of the above. Yep. Right. So the water, the liquids you're drinking.
How do you filter your water?
RO system.
Okay.
What's that? Or a distillation reverse osmosis system. So
that you have installed.
Yeah. Okay. Or you can get a countertop, and these things aren't that expensive, right? So it's not asking a lot. Plus, you also eliminate needing to get water elsewhere. Get a nice glass bottle and filter your water. Add some little salts back to it, and you're right as rain. So that's kind of, because that's the vulnerability. You're knowingly ingesting things. So look at the toothpastes, the mouthwashes, which is a whole nother weirdly strange topic that we
just kind of old paradigm of like destroy everything mentality, which I think we're sort of moving away from, where they're like, there's one bad thing, destroy everything. So when we're talking about oral care, it's like the idea is to kill all the bacteria in your mouth, but not understanding that there's a balance within the microbiome of your mouth that's very important. That
Extremely.
You need to
and that's the first part of your digestion, right? Literally. And it's the whole antibiotic thing. Like, let's overprescribe antibiotics, which means anti-life. That's what antibiotics is. Anti-life just annihilates it. It's an ecosystem destroyer, right? It's a clear cutter, right? So like pump the brakes on prescribing that stuff. Plus we're now getting obviously the antibiotic resistant strains from most of it coming from, the meat and dairy industry because of all of the injections.
That's a whole thing.
Antibiotics and things like that. So that's
so starting with your body.
So starting with your body, what you're eating.
Water.
Obviously minimize the ultra processed foods because that's all sort of chemical soup and it's not really food anymore either. So and then moving out from there, the lotions, start replacing the lotions that you're using. Obviously get your ass outside. Open up the windows, get fresh air. Because, I do a whole dive on the in-house, because that's, they call it our second skin because we're in it so much. We flipped, obviously, our ancestors lived over 90% outdoors. And then when they were tired and ready to go to sleep, they'd go inside. And now we live mostly inside. And there is the air quality indoors is worse than outdoors.
Really?
Right? So, and then what you're cleaning your place with, what your furniture's made of, what your couches are made of, like all of these, the paints you're using. Again, I put a ton of DIY stuff for people to make easy cleaning, vinegar,
essential oils,
diluted essential oil, lemon, like incredible. Like again,
there's good cleaning brands now.
Great. And you flip it because now all of a sudden it's actually healthy for you.
Oh my gosh, I can't be around any. We rented at Airbnb and they had cleaned it right before and all of us were literally unwell. We couldn't stay there.
Right.
It was my throat all day the next day. I was like, what is going on? That I could have 10 years ago been there and been fine.
Right.
But now I'm like so sensitive. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's abuse.
Abuse.
I feel abused when I was coming back from London last year and this dude had cologne on. I literally opened up and I was late, so I had to go to the airport. I literally just opened the window, stuck my head out like my dog. Because I couldn't breathe. I was like, this is bad.
This is.
I politely said, dude, you can't be wearing that shit. It's hurting you.
I mean, but it's so weird. I just think about me when I was just so asleep. It's like you need that intensity. Where he can't smell it anymore.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did something recently that I haven't told you guys about. And I kind of did it behind the scenes a couple months ago. And then it happened that we ended up working together with this brand on a sponsorship level. And that was had a full blood panel test with Joy Women's Wellness. They're an incredible company that has menopause care, weight loss care, sexual health, anti-aging, and longevity. And I was really interested in getting peptides. So if you listen to the podcast or you listen to other health and wellness podcasts, you might know about peptides. They're these really powerful tools for us for anti-aging and longevity, inflammation, and energy. They're incredible. And so I was interested in getting peptides. My friend told me about Joy Women's Wellness. I had my blood panel tested, and then I had an amazing session with their doctor. We went over my entire panel. It was the most helpful panel understanding I've ever looked at in my entire life. I could understand it without the doctor, but having that session with him was incredibly helpful. And then we had a very customized plan for my hormones, because my hormones were a little off. We had a customized plan for increasing my libido, baby. And then also for anti-aging and longevity. A lot of people use Joy Wellness for weight loss, whether they want to support themselves with insurance, without. And there's just so many tools that they have to help you live your most optimal health ever. It is incredible. So all you have to do is get your blood tested. They will send those results to Joy Wellness. Then you will schedule the call. You'll get your results in email, this like 20-page detailed report that you can understand. That's super easy. And then you'll review it with the doctor, and then you'll get your specific plan for action. I am obsessed. I've been taking their peptides for a few months now. I feel more youthful. I feel more young. I feel like my body composition has changed, and it's been so incredibly helpful. So I'm excited for you guys to get Joy Wellness. I was sending this to all my friends. It'll be so helpful for you for all the things that we're looking to do. An example of some of the things that I got from Joy Wellness include their NAD+, I got their glutathione, their vitamin D injection, and their B12. So I'm normally not an injection at home girly, but it's actually been so easy. You only do it once a week, and I've noticed so much energy. It is crazy. It has been incredibly helpful because I was low in vitamin D, low in B12, and it's just helped me feel like my most tippy-toppy best self ever. So Joy Wellness, I'm so excited for you guys to take ownership over your health and feel your best. Joy is giving you 20% off your labs, which is the labs that I took, that you guys can get a full understanding of how you're doing. You can go to choosejoy.co/almost30. That's choosejoy.co/almost30 and browse their curated selection of comprehensive labs. So you can get a very specific lab to one area, or you can do the full panel. Highly suggest the full panel, just get it all done. So it's choosejoy.co/almost30 and get 20% off their labs. choosejoy.co/almost30 and get 20% off their labs. So that's Joy Women's Wellness, and check it out today. So the home stuff.
Yep. And then so you move from in to out. And then so what's on my body? My underwear, I would make sure to make no synthetic underwears, because they're, that's even all the way to yeast infections contribution because of the fibers not being able to breathe. You're creating microenvironments, right? And then all the exposure of the chemicals. Again, I'm not saying that you're putting on clothes that's killing you. I'm saying over time, this is a cumulative body burden. Mm-hmm. There is very clear, there's great researchers here, that there's a lady, she wrote a book called which I interviewed her, called Countdown, Dr. Shana Shaw. Mm-hmm. And she wrote this book like, okay, these are extremely low levels, but they're affecting your endocrine system. She's starting to do research on, of course, the infertility is plummeting, and it's all associated with these things, right? And our stress levels and stuff like this. Men's testosterone is plummeting, so our motility is getting wiped out, and they're just moving the target of normal, right? That doesn't mean good. Mm-hmm. And then endometriosis is massive. Mm-hmm. The puberty, being launched into puberty way too early for girls, and menopause, all of these things are being affected. So and they're also now showing in Countdown, that book, they're also showing that this is having epidemiologic expression. So this is now for sure showing it's affecting your children. And we used to think way back in the day, the mom's placenta and umbilical cord protects. There's a barrier there, just similar to the blood-brain barrier. Like it's extremely protective of what it allows into the brain or what it allows into the baby. Well, over 200 chemicals they found in most children born today, right? So what the mom is doing is absolutely affecting even the unborn child, right? And so now this constant exposure of all of these things over time is now having, it's playing with thousands of gene expressions that we know nothing about. Mm-hmm. Again, similar to what we talked about. We throw a bunch out in the world, 60 to 80,000 chemicals, and then just go, we'll deal with it if it causes harm. There's a similar theme like that's going on all the time. So
is that global, or do you think that's more? Because I always hear that the United States is so much worse with that.
We are worse.
Is that true? Yeah. That in Europe and other countries?
They're a lot better. They're not perfect.
In Europe, but would you say, I guess, in third world countries, would that be the same, or is it just...
Well, third world, there's just very little regulation at all.
Yeah, that's why I was like, are we the worst?
Well, we're the worst from a product standpoint, right? From even, high fructose corn syrup as opposed in a Coca-Cola as opposed to just sugar in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And then so PFAS massively regulated in Europe, fragrances massively, and colognes massively, and that shows up, natural flavors, all of these things. So we have all these probably lobbying induced loopholes, whereas if you put that natural fragrance on there and say, as a manufacturer, hey man, we have a proprietary blend where we make that scent what it is, and so we want to protect that. And then they can put whatever they want and don't have to disclose anything.
I think like lobbying well, first of all, like insider trading, I don't think anyone that's in our government should be able to like trade on the market. First of all,
they do all the time.
They do all the time. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, come on. But it's like they shouldn't even be able to lobby. Like lobbying should not be part of our government, because that's why petroleum and oil industries have such a seat at the table. That's why the fast food. Yeah. That's why I think that is actually something that feels like, for me, an actionable step. That would be a thing that, not actionable as in if it's possible or not, I don't know. But it's like, that seems like very logical.
Yeah.
That would prevent a lot of...
I don't know who as an individual would say that's probably a good idea.
Exactly. Because any other governments, maybe they do it under the table.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not as obvious. But in ours, the fact that it's like legal and normal is very weird.
Yeah. It's the line is completely blurred, and the revolving door between, hey, we were just ahead of this, corporate interest company, and now we're running for Senate. Like it's the the CEOs, and it's a crazy relationship. That's the end of what I think the free market should be. Yeah. Right? Because it's like now with all these who we didn't vote for that stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't my choice. It wasn't our choice. That's why again, I'm compelled to write this, because I want people to be aware, so that your buying power, your vote, your true vote changes. And with your true vote changing, multiplied by how many products per individual, per home, per how many people we have, certainly in the United States, 330 million. Now, all of a sudden, if we start going, hey, man, why, I was already done with the book, but the Coca-Cola company had a derivative called, a side company called Simply Orange. And it was just this, it didn't have orange juice in it, right? So there was just fake orange.
I've seen it, yeah.
And it had 200 PFAS chemicals in it.
What?
200. And just sold. And then when someone finds it, then, again, this is the game.
Simply Orange is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in like every vending machine.
Yeah. So again, we're assuming that if we buy a product, it's pretty safe.
I mean, the label of Simply Orange too is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like an orange on a field.
Yeah. They didn't say Simply Orange. Yeah. It's orange. So
it's the orange color.
Yeah. It's so then the and that's where social media is great, because then it gets out, and then pressure gets put back on the corporation. Then the corporation goes, shit, we got to change this. Okay. Yeah, but why would you put it? Why would you allow it in there? Why would you not test it first?
Well, that's what it's like they just do it until they get caught.
Yeah.
It's like just as going as far as possible. And same with insider trading with the government, with people within the government. They just do it until they get caught. And then they're like, oh yeah, sorry, I shouldn't. It's a
line item.
Exactly. That's like our whole government's process, is just do it as far as you can until you get caught.
Yeah.
And I feel like Yeah.
It's a
This
listen.
is the thing. It's a moral, it's a societal sickness. It's a moral issue. And I feel like everyone needs God.
Yeah.
We all need God. Because what is going to be the thing that sustains us? The sustainer.
Yeah.
And like to be whole and be fulfilled within in a way where you're not searching outside. You don't have your hungry ghost running the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's taking a time out from that addiction.
Yeah.
And taking the time to go inside.
Yeah.
And who am I? What am I? Right? Where am I going? What am I creating? What do I desire? I am, because anything shy of I'm powerful, I'm beautiful, I'm perfect, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy in abundance, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm loving, I'm harmonious, I'm balanced. Anything shy of that and a whole lot more is a lie. Right? So the marketing of all this stuff is poking at the insecurities ultimately. And like you said, when you go in and you go, well, who am I? What light do I share? It's one source of light, right? God, universe, all of the above. And what lie would I be buying into to go, yeah, I feel like shit, so I need to buy these things to make myself feel better. But that's also a very, I suspect you've gone through it many times. That's also a warrior's path, because you have a reckoning of the false avatar you've been placing in the world. Unbeknownst to you, you're just dealing with life, doing the best you can. So you put this thing in the world, it can definitely get manipulated because it's insecure, doesn't know who it is. People are always telling it telling us what the hell. I'm like, is that me? Is Darin even me? Of course not.
Yeah.
Right? This is an avatar. But if
persona.
I live from that truth, then I'm compelled to put information so that other people don't walk along just unknowingly get harmed in the wake of something that should have but isn't being done properly. And from that perspective, the matrix starts wobbling and you start going, oh, so what he's saying is not all the products that I can buy are necessarily healthy for me. And there's literal chemicals that are detrimental to me. And so it's a path, man. So for me, I want to wake people up from wherever they're at, but from a common sense perspective too. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just kind of doing a bunch of work so that I can present it in a way that you can kind of get your head around it and go, oh wow, I don't want to knowingly do that now. Let me make another choice. And then when that common sense switch, because I do believe, I don't think any of this stuff is natural. Us living in boxes with artificial lights, of course it's not natural.
This light's making me want to melt. I'm like,
you're gonna have to come out to the oak trees and detox.
I'm like getting closer and closer, closer and closer to my cave life.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's also like we're looking at what I'm addicted to. Like, what are my addictions? And like, what about my experience? If I even think about the way that I live, like, where am I choosing my own inconveniences at the expense of other things when I know better? Where am I, choosing to look the other way? Where am I choosing yeah, where am I choosing to look the other way?
So what's your experience when you look the other way?
Let me think of something I look the other way about. Being plant-based was something that was really supportive of me karmically, I feel like, just in not looking the other way. I think that's been something that I'm really, really grateful for, to live in alignment in that piece. But I think I look the other way. Amazon, shopping on Amazon, having Amazon boxes come, getting my stuff on Amazon, just coming to my door, boxes in and out.
It's convenient.
It's convenient. I
What
think that's something.
doesn't line up about that? Is it that
Also,
you don't need some of this stuff really, or is it that you feel bad that it's so convenient, that it's the packaging, it's the process that it got to you? Like what's about it is not convenient for you, or not in alignment?
Yeah,
for you?
I think so. I use it for like cat food and stuff, my cat stuff. And if I need something quickly, like paper towels or something like that around the house. So what feels out of alignment is the fact that I know and have been aware of the way that they treat their employees, and then the way that they are with their staff. And so that doesn't feel good for me, to feel like I'm choosing something that I know isn't in the best interest of the people that work for them. I know that from an environmental perspective, that like that many boxes is not right. That much plastic in the containers is not right. And I know that what they've done from an economic perspective globally has been catastrophic for businesses and things all over the world, and it's only getting worse the way that they're infiltrating everything.
Full on monopoly.
It's crazy.
You know, it's interesting because with that sentiment, I was staring at all this stuff going, okay, if these things don't exist, what would it look like to make it exist?
Yeah.
So I was like, so I'm leaning into it with a badass woman friend of mine. What would a clean marketplace look like? Yeah. Right? From everything, from certifying it, testing it, business-wise, business practices, the best you can with packaging and stuff like that, and then just moving in that way. So once someone comes in, they know that all of these things have been done for them. That then what should be done, I'm using should just because there's not a better word, what should be done is we should have safe products that have been tested ahead of time, us buying it. Because we've worked our ass off to buy products and whatever else. And so my hope would be that you walk in there and that is already taken care of for you. So I'm staring at this going, it's a big undertaking, but I'm contemplating it right now, because so many of these things we're now hard to live without getting something on Amazon.
Yeah.
Like it's just like,
it's wild.
Oh my gosh, what has happened?
Yeah. It's, I think too, though, it's like, you know, and what's been interesting, if we think about it from a cultural perspective, like we have these conveniences that we have, Amazon is the example, making our lives easier. But then what we do is we add something else to our list. So with the conveniences that I've added to my life, and that I think a lot of people that are listening have added to their life, it hasn't given them more space.
No.
They've actually, people feel busier than ever. People feel more overwhelmed than ever. People feel at their max capacity more than ever before. So we're not actually using it for the intention that we think. Like we're not actually using it to have more time and space in our life back, like Postmates or Uber Eats or whatever. It's like, then you just add more on, or you look at TikTok for even longer, or you do things even longer than actually using it for like the intended use of giving us time back in our life.
Well, that's the lie.
Exactly.
That's the PR marketing lie that they're telling us. And we bought into it.
Yeah. Or it's like, but also it's just kind of keeping us producing more, working more.
For sure.
You know.
Good little bees.
Doing more into capitalism, you know, than ever before. Supporting production and money and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's a whole vibe.
It certainly is.
What was like your favorite? What was a part that gave you hope of this book? Like, what was a part where you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. This is a cool alternative. This is a cool thing that our earth naturally does. This is a cool part of our human body.
I mean, wow, that's a good question. Everything from the body naturally producing moisturizer called sebum, right?
Sebum?
Yeah, it's called sebum. So we have 2,500 to 6,000 per square inch, and it naturally produces moisturizer. But then when we put moisturizer, it disrupts this whole process.
Per square.
2,500 sebum little
molecules.
Well, they're little mechanisms of producing, right? So there's tons, right?
Yeah.
Over time, yes, they can go down,
yeah,
right? So then we lean on, and so just like that kind of thing, all the way to the very cool, and this is for sure weekly for me, from what companies are doing, like. Speaking of the fast fashion, there's a company called Kentra. I had a meeting with them in New York, and because obviously the issue with fast fashion, with petroleum-based products, with polyurethanes, with nylons, it's super cheap. It's easy to make, and it's good at its job, right? The things are really good at their job. And Kentra is a company that is working with polymers from sugar that are mimicking that of all of these other petroleum-based products. So you're like, and I was like a silk and a shirt, and I was looking at them going, oh my God, these feel amazing. And then I met God, I forget his name, Andre. He was the son of one of the biggest jeans manufacturers in the world, and he created an alternative to elastane in the stretchy jeans. And I met him in a regenerative farm, growing his cotton, and then those jeans can be pulverized back and literally thrown on the ground to fertilize the ground. So I am extremely hopeful of the inventions and the solutions that are happening. And again, I'm extremely hopeful of people and of their spirit and of their common sense switch. I don't really believe that the majority of the people truly want to I just want to live and just be completely oblivious to what's going on. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Of course, there's times I don't even want to deal with stuff. I'm going to deal with it later. Like, there's timing to all this stuff. So people are going to look at this book. They're going to go, oh, shit, I got to change this thing. Because something's going to pop up and go, oh, my God, I knew that. It's all common sense. It's really when you look at this stuff going, what? Why is that in this product? Why is that paraben in this product? Why are these in my product? Now that product doesn't look the same anymore. I'm not that happy.
Or the smell. You're like, I can't take the smell anymore.
Or the smell.
Or the feel. You can feel it. You're like, whoa, this feels off.
It's like, again, go to the good feelings of essential flower essences, essential oils, all of this stuff, and then it will gift you infinitely. Yeah. So I don't expect everyone to implement everything, but it's going to get in there and start seeping in and then waking the tiger within people. I'm hopeful for that.
I love what you have the chap in here where it's like what you can do. Okay, what should we do?
Yeah. I have literally the last quarter of the book.
Yeah, is all very simple, clear. Like, okay, what should we do?
Yeah,
just
DIYs,
like this is what
laundry
you should
detergents, deodorants, moisturizers. You realize that organic coconut oil is so cheap compared to a lotion. And you also
That's what Zach Bush says to use just coconut oil on your body only.
And a natural SPF of 5 to 7 already.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
I thought it would cook you.
No. Put butter on it might cook you.
I thought you put coconut oil and just like fry you. But we all know sunscreen's a whole thing too.
Yeah. I get into that too. The benzoines and all that stuff, carcinogenic, and all these things affecting, vitamin D production, and it's dismantling and disabling our own immune system activation. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Each one's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole.
Let's talk about the show.
Oh, yeah, that little show.
Yeah. How did that come about? Are you friends with Zac?
Yeah, I mean, a little distant now.
Yeah.
Just, he's been very busy, so I haven't talked to him for a while, but...
and you're pissed.
And I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he reached out to me a few years before there was a show from a podcast I was on. I was talking about something, right?
Just blabbering.
Just going off.
Just blah, blah, blah.
And I think I did ask him finally, like, what? He goes, it was just something you were saying and how you were saying it. And so he ended up getting my number from a mutual friend of Rich's. And I said, yeah, it's fine. I have
we love
people
Rich.
Rich is the best.
King. Yeah, his little write-up on the back is so written by him.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with him.
For sure.
Just like genius.
He's the best. I love that guy. Inside and out. So then I didn't think about it. And then, I don't know, a couple months later, I get this random text from Zac, and it was really sweet. And he wrote this thing like, hey, really would love to meet and talk. So we met at this vegan restaurant in called Golden Mean. Have you ever been there?
Where is it? Malibu?
Sweet little, no, it's Westwood.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet little
Golden
place.
Mean, I can't wait.
Golden Mean, it's great. Hopefully it's still there. I haven't been there in a while. And we sat there for hours, and he was asking about, superfoods and adaptogens and life, and instantly just like, I didn't really know Zac. I didn't know. I mean, I follow him. I was a little too old for that stuff, but just super instant kind of, cool friendship. And so kind of later, we were just like, hey, what else are you doing? And like, clearly he had a love for nature and the environment. And so I said, I have this idea because people have been wanting to do a superfood hunting show, which would be still rad, to do that. Just show people where the stuff's from, and the Amazon and the Andes and the mountains and stuff like that. Like, this is where the rhodiola, this is where the maca is from, this is where,
And then you show them where the chemical ones are from.
Yeah.
You should do one episode like that. Like, this is the beauty of it. And
do you want it from here?
Yeah, honestly.
Or Mother Earth? So anyway, cut to... I said, I actually have a sketched out. I wrote down this thing before I met him. I said, okay, I want to do a little bit of superfood hunting, but because my life has expanded so many different ways, and the environment and the things I've seen, and water and food and power and shelter, I'm going to write out this thing. And so I mentioned, like, I'm thinking about doing this. I wasn't pitching him at all. I was just answering a question. He was like, so we could go to these places and like... discover and look into them, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. So we said bye, and a few hours later, he calls me back, and he goes, hey man, I have already a deal at Netflix with another show. It's with me, but a completely different topic. I told my team, I want to do this new thing with you. And so let's do it. And of course I had to meet all of his people, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Totally.
Right? They're like, we already have this show, but he didn't want to do it. It was like called Spooning with Zac.
Wait.
It was stupid.
About what?
It was like, I don't know why it was called that, because it had nothing to do with Spooning with Zac, but it was something to the effect that a celebrity in their culture of origin of sorts would have a meal, and they would travel there. And so there was a travel. That's where we had to bake in the travel part, which of course we were going to do anyway, and the eating.
Got it.
In that. That's where the consistency of that we kind of had to.
Yeah.
Netflix didn't know I was involved until we gave them the show. They were like, who is this guy?
Yeah, totally.
But we were already done.
You're
it was already
paid for. You got your uncle here with us.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your weird uncle.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how it happened.
That was manifestation. You wrote that down.
Yeah.
You manifested that.
Fully legit. Small town kid from Minnesota going, I'm doing a show with Zac Efron.
Totally. I think in LA, do you feel like, this is how I feel. In LA, things just feel so possible. Like, you know what I mean? Where you're like, I know Rich. I got, Rich is this person. I got connected to this. And then it just kind of like spider webs where you're like, okay, now I'm doing this thing.
Well, it certainly makes, because you have a yes.
Yeah.
To answer your question. And then you put yourself into a scenario where there's more people around, there's more things.
Yes.
There is a creative opportunity for sure. And then, so then it continued obviously. And I thought we were going to go and for an infinite amount, but it doesn't look like a season 3 is going to
I was wondering about that. Why do you think?
I mean, I can't really get into the real reasons, but it just, there was a lot of schedule problems. There was kind of some loss of some of the other producers and stuff.
Yeah.
And Zac is extremely busy right now with just movie stuff. However, I can't really give a lot of details. I am massively moving on a new show.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pretty far down. I've got I can't say the co-host yet, but holy shit balls.
I'm going to guess after.
Okay,
I'm really psychic.
If you can guess,
it's a woman. It's a woman.
Nope.
Okay.
Well, there's actually, okay, so you're partially right.
Okay.
Because there's 2 on the table.
Okay.
Which I'm probably, if the second one it's definitely a female. There's we haven't got a commitment yet, but there's a couple hovering.
Okay, cool.
But the other one that
for the show, you need to say, "Whoa, that was crazy! You got it."
Right.
You need like you're psychic.
Yeah.
She got it.
She had 2 choices.
Don't embarrass me.
She got it was a female.
Don't embarrass me.
You couldn't lose because there's 2 choices, and the other co-host is a male.
Okay.
And the first one so it's another, but badass.
Okay.
Badass, and we've been developing that for probably 7-8 months.
Okay.
And so that moving pretty fast, but then this other one's moving pretty good, and I love the aspect of a female.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's something with both, right? They both exercise different things, but it opens up another opportunity of my creativity. Even though the co-host hasn't signed on yet, it opens up this whole other side of what I've been exposed to and what I would want to express. And so that's my desire. All of this stuff, Down to Earth, led me down this. Of course, it's a cool platform. And we got incredible response. Netflix was so happy because we opened up like Pandora's box for them and from a sustainable aspect. And they started taking initiatives. So they've been amazing. So yeah, I'm stoked. Yeah, creatively, I'm just very excited. So hopefully some of that stuff we start filming in the next 4 or 5 months.
What would be one episode people should watch of the show? What's your favorite episode?
Of both seasons?
Yeah, both seasons.
Gosh. Oh, man, they all have their own love, right? Depends on your mood, man. I mean, Iceland, just because it's another planet.
Yeah.
And it's so wild. I would love to spend more time there. And then from a food forest standpoint, the Costa Rica episode in season 1. Season 1, we really had a lot more of kind of cool interactions between Zac and I. Because we just have long travel and we just forget cameras are off. And season 2, I mean, the Torres Strait Islanders was a really special thing, and also the opening episode where the ceremony, like that was legit.
What was the ceremony? The
ceremony was these elders, these First Nations people, Aboriginal people of Australia, that every area, every state you go in Australia, you meet the Aboriginal people. There's over 300 different classes of Aboriginal First Nations people. And so when we were coming to this area to start our episode, literally that was how we were to start every episode. And we just happened to film that incredibly. But it was legit. Like, I didn't care the camera was on. And these two uncles, one was 100 years old or just shy of 100. Like, his birthday was like next month or something. And he started invoking the ancestors. And I literally was like, oh. I could feel them just staring, right, in their presence. And then when he said, and they, you know, they did the ceremony, and when he said, "You are now under my protection. You are now like family," and I felt it to my soul, right? And I still feel like I've had conversations with a few of them along the way, and it's just like, bam, it's like no time. And I just, so that throughout season 2 was epically special. And of course the Great Barrier Reef stuff that we were looking into and diving into and exploring how to restore some of this stuff, swimming with dolphins in the wild, and like, come on, man. It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful that in the human experience, it's like, oh, it's not always, but oftentimes it's like the mystical.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the things that are unseen. You know, like that feeling that I got when I had that elder experience.
Oof, man.
You know, you can see the things and do the things, but it's always those that are like, yo, that was
totally
powerful.
Yeah. Torrey Strait, there's these kids' ceremony that they showed. And it was just like, just sitting there listening to that sound in the ocean, and just like, man. Like, yeah. That's special.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This has been a pleasure and a delight. The book is Fatal Conveniences. It's out now. Enjoy. And thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much, Darin. Again, the book is Fatal Conveniences. It is out now. He also has another book called Super Life, and he also is the co-host of Netflix's Down to Earth with Zac Efron. Highly recommend getting this book to support yourself and having a less toxic life.
To learn more about Almost 30, what we got going on here, you can go to almost30.com. We have our membership, which is open and poppin'. It's such a beautiful place for you to just come as you are, to learn and grow in community. We have our courses and programs as well, like the Life Edit, Sacredness of Being Single, and the Invitation, which is a breakup series that Krista and I did. Make sure to follow us on socials. We're on TikTok. Yes, we are. Almost 30 Podcast. And on Instagram, Almost 30 Podcast. And just want to shout out our sponsors for this episode. Thank you so much to brands that we truly love and align with and love to bring you. You can find all discount information in our show notes as well as on almost30.com.
We love you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.